What does it mean for an anime to feel real? Does the animation need to look real? Does the story need to feel like something that could take place in the real world? Do the characters need to act in ways we expect them to? There's a video by a YouTuber named Asher Isbrucker that tries to answer this question by looking at films made by Studio Ghibli, and he does an excellent job of exploring the elements that make these films feel so real. And while the worlds of Studio Ghibli films feel incredibly real, I feel there's another niche group of anime shows and movies that have a special type of realism when compared to most other anime. This niche group of anime is situated in the late 1990s and typically has a cyberpunk or mecha theme. Some good examples of these shows are shows like Gundam the 8th MS Team, Neon Genesis Evangelion, Cowboy Bebop, and films directed by Mamoru Oshii such as Ghost in the Shell and Patlabor 2. And while I feel there are definitely anime which fit into this same niche that came before and after the late 90s, I feel like these specific shows and films really capture the essence of this specific anime style. These kind of anime seem to capture me in a way no others can, by creating not only a compelling world, but also filling it with incredible stories. And one film which I think does this best is Jin Roh The Wolf Brigade. And in this video, I want to explore the ways in which it does this. I think if I had to pick one defining characteristic of Jin Roh or any of these other anime I've been referencing, it'd probably have to be the visuals. One recognizable individual who I think really helped pioneer this visual style that I've been referencing is director Mamoru Oshii. He was the screenwriter for Jin Roh, and he also directed the 1995 film Ghost in the Shell, which I think is really the shining example of the cyberpunk style I've been discussing so far. Oshii both directed and wrote many of the anime and manga of this style and period, such as Ghost in the Shell and Patlabor, but he wouldn't be the one to direct Jin Roh, even though he wrote the source material. The job of directing Jin Roh would go to Hiroyuki Okura, an animator for several of Oshii's previous films. Okura I don't think is nearly as popular as Oshii is, but don't think he doesn't have an equally large list of achievements in this same industry. He's been the key animator for films such as Akira, Patlabor 2, the 1995 version of Ghost in the Shell, Paprika, Evangelion 3.0, and this other really obscure film called Kimi No Na Wa. However, Jin Roh would be Okura's directorial debut, and to be honest, I think he knocked it out of the fucking park. And while I don't think it's exactly what I would describe as a cyberpunk anime, it still retains the same kind of feel as a film such as Ghost in the Shell. I honestly think without Okura at the helm, Jin Roh would not have turned out the way that it did. With him being so invested in animation already, I think he played a pretty heavy hand in getting the animation and the distinct visual style of Jin Roh to where it is. The characters, the environments, the vehicles, the weapons, everything in this film looks incredibly beautiful and realistic. This film seems to be the peak of hand-drawn animation, and it really shines here. And the weapons I think are the perfect example of the kind of visuals that define both Jin Roh and the other anime I've been referencing so far. All the weapons and guns in Jin Roh are placed there purposefully in terms of story, history, and practicality. The Wolf Brigade uses German MG42s, light machine guns that show both the Axis route of the new Japanese government and the alternate history of Jin Roh, and also the technological and numerical superiority over the resistance fighters in the film. On the opposite end of the spectrum, the resistance fighters are using allied weapons, Sten guns, a captured Panzerfaust, and guns that the losing side in an alternate history would be using. The technical specificity of the guns, too, is something that really sets Jin Roh apart. So much more attention is paid to how all the weapons function and operate, and attention to detail is really the name of the game here in this anime. For instance, a good example of this is how the Wolf Brigade uses loose belts of ammunition in their MG42s, but they have a plate on their left arm which allows the belts to cleanly feed into the machine guns, and whenever they need to retrieve a new belt, they simply pull one out of their backpack, which is specifically built to discharge belts of ammo in this way, and this is all shown on screen in the film. Sorry if I'm geeking out too much about gun porn, don't worry, I'm almost done. Another good example of this attention to detail is a scene where the Wolf Brigade are using STG-44s in a training event, and whenever they're done training, there's a scene in which one of the characters mentioned how they're using rubber bullets, and that's how they are able to shoot each other. And it's these little things, these little details that people don't really pick up on, but unconsciously recognize and use to answer other things that they have questions about in the universe of the film. This is what adds to the realism of Jin Roh so well. As an audience member, you don't have to question certain aspects of the world because it's all explained to you visually, with nothing being said. It's like that stupid thing that all those people who think they know about films like to say, show, don't tell. Bop, 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 bop. These small little nuanced details aren't just restricted to the visuals of the film though, they're also in the audio.
怪我はない?あなたは来られないわ。
Did I say I was gonna stop talking about guns? Yeah, sorry, I'm not done talking about guns. So in the same scene with the resistance fires and the Wolf Brigade in the sewers, we get to see a great example of how director Okuro uses sound to help tell the story in a realistic way. As the fighters start firing, their weapons sound like typical submachine guns. But when the Kerberos Corps starts firing, the machine guns sound like literal thunder. It's fucking terrifying. This use of sound here just is even more of an emphasis of how dangerous the Wolf Brigade are compared to the resistance fighters. Another good example of Okuro's use of sound is in the scene where Fuse comes across the girl in the sewer with the bomb. Throughout their short conversation, it is almost completely silent, which helps to create a lot of tension in between the two characters. And as the girl pulls the cord on the bomb, the audio just disappears. It's like we were transported into Fuse's head, in that moment where you don't have the time to comprehend what's happening and your mind isn't even registering the sound. And it feels so real. And with that, we can finally segue into talking about something that isn't about guns. To put it simply, the way the characters act in this film is just wholly believable. While I know that there is a plot that runs parallel to the entire story that makes Fuse's story an allegory to Little Red Riding Hood, a rock caption, or whatever the hell it's called, I don't want to focus on that. You clicked on this video to hear me talk about the realism of this film, not to hear me critically analyze the story in some sort of video essay, because that just sounds like too much work. No, what I want to focus on in terms of character development and actions is Fuse's reaction to the girl's suicide and his resulting PTSD. Very rarely do we get a piece of war media that thoughtfully covers PTSD, and even more rarely is it done as well as it is in Jin Roh Wolf Brigade. Oh, and if I guess there's any time I'm gonna say I'm gonna spoil the movie, now is the time, even though this shit has been out for like 2 decades, go fucking watch it. Anyways, our main character Fuse watches a girl blow herself up for a cause he is taught is wrong, and then this continues to shape his actions further in the film and the devotion he has to the organization he's pledged his life to, the Wolf Brigade. He couldn't even pull the trigger in the first place to stop her from blowing herself up, because let's be honest, who the fuck would want to do that? And throughout the film, he has to grapple with being able to pull the trigger again whenever the situation finally demands it. He has to make a choice to either put away his humanity and become the wolf the organization wants him to be, or he has to realize that he's a fucking human and he's gonna make human mistakes. And he chooses to be a wolf. His struggle with these decisions is pretty much his entire character development, and it feels so goddamn real. I don't know any other way to put it. This is how you do a story, realistically, with realistic characters, by giving them realistic conflict and realistic development. And I honestly think that that's the most important aspect of making any sort of media seem real. Your anime can look real, it can sound real, and the world can be as real as you want. But if your characters make stupid decisions, then no one's gonna think that it's realistic. Or good. I think the two are synonymous. I don't know, that's ignorant of me to say, but I'm gonna stand by it because it's gonna cause some drama in the comments. It's like how I mispronounced Korsman in the last video. Anyways, I think what I'm trying to get at in this video is that this film, and others like it, feel realistic not just because of their look, but because of a conglomeration of all of the elements that I've touched on. Which sounds pretty obvious now that I say it out loud, but I mean, you watched the video, so I could have talked about the intense and interesting political intrigue and allegories of this movie, but I'd much rather just leave that stuff up to you as the viewer to think about. I simply wanted to talk about how Jin Roh made me feel immersed in another world. Because isn't that what a good movie, TV show, or anime is supposed to do? Isn't that what really makes it realistic? Okay, first off, sorry for taking so long to make another video. I know it took like a year and a half and a pandemic in order for me to like actually put out more content, but that was just because that Generation Kill video that most of you have probably seen if you're subscribed to my channel was just a one offshoot video I decided to make to see if anyone would actually watch it, because I hadn't seen any other content about Generation Kill on YouTube before. And it got like 600,000 views, even though it was a terrible video. But thanks for the support anyways from those of you who watched it. Quit fucking commenting on it and saying that I mispronounced Korsman. I get it. I know that I did. It was purposeful. Ha 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 ha. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. I'll probably start actually posting stuff like every month now, and then it takes a while to like make one of these videos though and make it. I'm not gonna say well, because these aren't well-made videos, but you get what the point is. Anyways, fucking stay safe and stay healthy, because coronavirus is real shit. Hopefully this gets more than like 500 views, but I mean, hey, who knows? Anyways, enjoy your lives.